Happy Friday and welcome to another episode of BrainScratch. I'm John Lorden. Today we're going to be getting into a case that is hitting headlines all over the nation and all around the world. Of course, you guys know I typically look for cases that need exposure either re-raised or exposure that they never got in the first place. This one feels a little different. This is one where we need to get all hands on deck because I do think timing is very, very important in the murder of Rachel Morin. We're going to get into all that here soon. I just have one thing to tell you guys about before we jump into that, and that is the Mysteria channel over on Roku TV. Check out Mysteria on Roku TV, and you'll not only see episodes of Three Men and a Mystery, episodes of Uncovered with LordanArts, they are now also running BrainScratch episodes with LordanArts. It's cool to have a channel you could just leave on all day, leave it running in the background, and hear a bunch of great true crime. So please check out Roku TV and search Mysteria. That's M-Y-S-T-E-R-I-A. Now let's get into today's case, starting with Fox News. Maryland woman vanishes, and this is being reported on August 6, 2023. It was actually Friday, August 5th that this occurred. Maryland law enforcement officials are looking for a woman who reportedly disappeared Saturday evening after leaving to take a walk on a nature trail. 37-year-old Rachel Morin left to hit the Ma and Pa Trail in Bel Air. Harford County is located about 30 miles north of Baltimore and near the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. Let's learn just a little bit more about where this has taken place. It's in the U.S. state of Maryland. As of the 2020 census, the population was over 260,000 people. The county seat for Harford County is actually Bel Air. The county was named for Henry Harford, Harford, served as the last proprietary governor of Maryland. And the county sits at the headwaters of the Chesapeake Bay along the Susquehanna River. This particular trail is called the Ma and Pa Heritage Trail, was basically built on what used to be an old section of train track. There are two separate parts to the trail. I don't think they're directly connected yet. And with these two parts combined, it's somewhere around 6 miles from one end of this trail to the other. Now, she did actually make it. I know that first article makes it sound like we're not sure if she actually gets there. She did make it to the trail. We're going to learn, unfortunately. Her vehicle was parked at what's known as the Williams Street entrance. So just to zoom in, you can see there's this parking lot right off of Williams Street here, and pretty much the start of one end of the trail. Let's learn a little bit more about this trail from the website for it. It says the Ma and Pa Heritage Trail is located on portions of the former Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad corridor in Bel Air and Forest Hill, Maryland. Currently, the trail consists of a 3.3-mile section in Bel Air and a 1.7-mile segment in Forest Hill. Recently, in partnership with the town of Bel Air, Harford County has acquired an easement for a small stretch of land that will finally allow for the connection of those two sections. So once they do get that connection done, it's actually going to stretch the trail even longer because they're adding more land to it, and it will be 8 miles long as of that time. So unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know. Unfortunately, we find out Rachel has been murdered. Fortunately, her body is found fairly quickly. And of course, it's fortunate because we have evidence collection that needs to happen quickly. And the sooner they can get in there, the less contamination that might happen. And we're really hoping for, kind of the holy grail in these cases right now is DNA. Are we going to be able to find DNA in this case? Over at New York Post, the headline, "Cops Find Body After Maryland Woman Rachel Morin Vanishes on Nature Trail." After locating Morin's vehicle on Sunday morning near the entrance of the trail on William Street, law enforcement combed the area and a woman's body was found at 107. Now, the way this is written, they're kind of making it sound like law enforcement was combing the area and they found the body. There was actually other people that were out there looking as well. And it would ultimately be someone that knew Rachel. We'll get more into those details, but someone that knew Rachel found her. The discovery was made just hours after the sheriff's office described the search for Morin as very active when speaking to Fox News. The sheriff's office described Morin as a 5'2", 107-pound woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. She left her home wearing a dark tank top, black sports bra, black spandex shorts, and gray sneakers, they added. And here is a picture of Rachel. Boyfriend of Rachel Morin says, I didn't do anything to her hours after her body was found on the hiking trail as cops launch a homicide probe. So based on this very rapid movement, obviously, I mean, look, we're only talking about 2 days after she disappeared that this is being reported. Could the autopsy have been done in that time frame? Maybe, except this is happening over a weekend, and I believe the autopsy is not done at this point. So it is fairly obvious when they discover her body that there has been a homicide in this case, and that's due to some of the circumstances of how she was found, which we'll talk about. But as frequently happens in these true crime cases, of course, everyone starts analyzing it, and pretty soon people are online and they're looking in a very specific direction. Just a matter of several days before this, I believe it's on August 1st, a man named Richard Tobin updates his relationship status on Facebook and says that he's in a relationship with her. Now, that doesn't mean that the relationship started only 4 days before. It's just that's when his status got updated. I haven't found information on how long they've actually been together. But you can imagine we've got people that are scouring social media looking into this case. They hit her profile. They see it's connected to this guy's profile. He's only saying that he's been her boyfriend for a matter of days. Now her body is found in a park. That being said, there are several cases that we've covered here on the channel, and we'll touch on a few of them a little bit later. There are several cases where crimes of opportunity do happen in this type of scenario. And you're talking a public park, you know, like the risk around being seen in that type of area is probably quite a bit more than even something that happens within someone's personal home or private four walls. I mean, you're out in public at that point. So this avenue of investigation, of course, should be looked at. You're going to look at everyone that's close to her and try to figure out if there's some aspect of that comes into play. And honestly, there's maybe a little bit of a lingering question with this case where that might still be a consideration. But unfortunately, we've just seen it time and time again with cases where women go to work out and they don't come home, their bodies are found. There's usually a sexual assault component. And in several of those cases, the perpetrator does not know the victim. So is that what we have happening here? I don't know. But Richard Tobin is basically immediately deflecting online attacks. He took to the Facebook comments under the couple's fresh August 1st relationship status to shoot down any theories that he had anything to do with the mother of five's death. Yeah, Rachel is a mother of five children that won't be able to spend any more time with their mother. It's terrible. It's terrible. He says, quote, I love Rachel. I would never do anything to her. Let the family and I grieve. Yes, I have a past, but I have 15 months clean and have changed as a person. Please, he wrote under the status. Over 480 comments have built up under the now ominous 7-day-old relationship post. I don't know why they're phrasing it like that, with some users speculating about Tobin's involvement in her death and others expressing that he remains innocent until proven guilty, which obviously we believe in here. That's, you guys see the disclaimer before every episode. 2 arrests for criminal second-degree assault are in his past, malicious destruction of property, drug possession, he's admitted to being a former addict, and violating restraining orders according to court records. So sure, he's got a past. Yes, there's a change in relationship that happens around this. Could that be some reason or play into this case in some way? We're hearing from law enforcement. I don't want people to go running off at this part of the video and like, yep, that's the one. We're hearing from law enforcement. No, it doesn't seem like there's any connectivity between him and her. Unfortunately, this is looking like one of those cases where the perpetrator might not have any direct connection to the victim, which makes these cases really hard. It's part of the reason why I thought we need to cover this sooner rather than later. It's not typical that I even cover a case within the first month of it occurring. but this is one of those cases. The 20 charges previously filed against him in Maryland also include resisting arrest and disorderly intoxication. Police have confirmed that a homicide investigation into Morin's death is underway, but Tobin has not been accused of any wrongdoing, nor has law enforcement named him as a suspect. And honestly, even after going through all the information here today, there's no indicators that I'm catching in terms of him being a suspect here. Like the only possibility in that could be if, and I'm not saying him in particular, but the only direct connectivity could be if it was possibly a hired hit, maybe. And why am I saying that? Stay tuned, and I think you'll come to the same conclusion with me by the end of the video. But Tobin was confirmed to be the individual that first reported Morin's disappearance after she failed to return home, police said. He also provided information about where her vehicle was located, which law enforcement confirmed was correct during their search for the missing mother. Harford County Sheriff Jeff Gaylor said, "I'm not going to go into what physically they observed at the scene, but investigators believe, sadly, that this is a homicide case." Kind of to the point I was making earlier. They come out with that conclusion very, very quickly without the official autopsy being conducted. And kind of on that point, though I'm sure the autopsy has been concluded, we still don't have their official cause of death that's been released. We have some information that's been reported through the press that is pretty much social information about the types of injuries that she seemed to sustain. And it's with that information that there's kind of this conclusion that's been drawn about how her life was ended. But it's kind of interesting being this far out, and we don't actually have the official autopsy information, at least that I've been able to find. If you guys see any links to that, please drop it in the comments down below. Let's learn a little bit more about Rachel, unfortunately, from her obituary. Rachel H. Morin was born on May 20th, 1986 in New Hampshire. Here they're saying she passed away on August 6th, 2023. Maybe that's when it was confirmed that she had passed away, because I did double check and it was Saturday, August 5th that she actually went missing. But she was a beloved daughter to Patty Morin and the late Ronald Zach Morin. Rachel was a devoted mother to her children, Faye, Violet, Octavia, Declan, and Lila. She was the caring sister of Rebecca, Nathan, and his wife, Megan, Michael and his wife, Shannon, John and his wife, Sam, and Josiah and his wife, Megan. Also survived by many loving nieces, nephews, cousins, friends, and family. Rachel was passionate about her children and family more than anything. Loved fashion, was a fitness enthusiast, often participated in 5K marathons and lifting weights. She enjoyed traveling when she could, and she had visited numerous places such as Miami, Aruba, Las Vegas, and New England. Rachel was the life of the party and had a special knack for making people laugh. Her presence was the joy she showed, and her smile the light in the room. She was deeply devoted to her faith, which was a guiding force throughout her life. Rachel was best described as faith-filled, loving, and adventurous. She lived life with an infectious zest, spreading joy and love wherever she went. Her love was a testament to the power of faith, love, and the human spirit. We get a little more information at the New York Post here from someone that she worked for, and we learn a little bit about her business. They say that she was a devoted mom to her 5 kids. She was very warm, and above all, she loved her children, said Margaret Waltz, who is 69 years old, and she was talking about the 37-year-old Maryland mother. She raised them very well. She had a flexible work schedule that allowed her to make sure that her kids were always taken care of. We were like grandparents to the kids, and we trusted her implicitly. Morin, who owned her own cleaning business, worked for Waltz and her husband for 8 years, keeping their home tidy. Waltz admitted that she and her husband noticed that Morin seemed distracted the week before she was killed. Margaret Waltz said Morin's top priority was her kids. You know, it's interesting to me that we're kind of noting that there's some distraction. Something that we frequently hear when we're looking into cases like this is sometimes there's information left behind that this person was worried about something, or there was some type of dispute or disagreement happening. This is really the only hint that we get. Admittedly, it's from some people that are relatively close to her, people that she sees regularly. They would know what she's like normally. But perhaps the distraction, maybe it is about this new relationship. Maybe it is that new that it's kind of distracting her a little bit. I'm really not finding any other hints, or at least anything that's being commented on in these articles about, oh yeah, she was really upset about this, or there was something going on with her. We noticed a big change. This is the only little comment on that note. The kids, who range in age from 8 to 18, have 3 different fathers, and they've been split up and sent to live with their respective dads. So let's continue here. Basically, law enforcement gets the word out. They've been using press very well in this case. They've had a few press conferences where they're releasing important information in a very controlled way. But you can tell, like, their intent is clear. The way that they're engaging the public using media has been a really good example from my point of view. Something that I think a lot of other police departments, sheriff's offices, law enforcement in general could look at as a model and maybe implement. And they've got a pretty active Facebook account. They've done a couple posts there as well about this case to kind of keep the public updated on it. But so they get the word out really quickly. Maryland detectives plead for video and images. One of the things that's unfortunate is at this point, during her disappearance, there are no cameras in that park at all along that trail. So they ask, if you were on the Ma and Pa Trail on Saturday or near the trail or trailheads and took photos or video, we're asking if you would please share them with investigators. That's another great point, because look, the person that did this came in and left through one of those trailheads. So even if you were just around them, and I'm sure investigators have already hit the businesses that might have cameras that face that direction, it seems like they're not finding what they're looking for, so they're putting the word out in the public. There could be something helpful in one of your photos that might bring us one more piece of the puzzle. The sheriff's office said it had received nearly 90 tips from community members in reference to the homicide investigation. As of the later stats that I've seen, like right up to today, they're somewhere in the 300 to 400 range for tips that have been called in now. Deputies could not say whether Morin was targeted or if the murder was random violence. Gaylor said that there are 0 suspects at this point, adding that his investigators are still waiting for an autopsy. So that's confirmation, at least as of August 8th, that the autopsy hadn't happened yet. And in other cases that I've seen, usually the medical examiners that do that stuff work Monday through Friday. And sometimes if these cases happen on the weekend, the body will wait. And if there's other bodies that are lined up first, it could be Monday or Tuesday before this autopsy might occur. So I think that's the situation that we're seeing here. Sheriff Gaylor also puts out an interesting thought here over on Fox News. It could be someone who came to learn that routine. Apparently, this is something she would do often. She would go to that trail and use it time and time again. Being a runner myself, sometimes we do fall into routines or particular routes that we like to use. So there is a chance there could be some level of premeditation here. We really don't have enough information to determine if this seems like a crime of opportunity at this point. So he's noting that here, that could have been someone who came to learn that routine and knew where she might be at that time, or it could be a random person. So he's definitely staying open to both. He also notes here, we remind our community, if you think you saw something and it might pertain to this case, we want to talk to you. Continuing at New York Post, slain mom Rachel Morin was found naked with face brutally smashed in. Now, before I drive too much more into these details, I want to say that these details are coming with a little bit of controversy around them. The main person that has been cited in several articles stating this information is not the person that actually found her. And that kind of came out, and law enforcement basically put the word out there like, hey, look, this guy that's telling you and giving you all this description, we know that he wasn't the one that found her. He's saying that he's related to the person that found her. So there is a degree of separation when it comes to this description. However, I think it's hard to know what levels might have been embellished in terms of this description. What we do know for sure is law enforcement convinced it was a homicide right from the start. As a matter of fact, there seems to be a little time gap before they actually acknowledge that she is the body that they found. I noticed that in some of the early articles that I was reading. They were like, we're looking for a woman, we found a body. It wasn't, we're looking for a woman, we found her. So does that mean that something had happened where she couldn't be identified that easily? I think that's likely. And here in this title, they're saying it. She was found naked with her face brutally smashed in. Morin was laying on her back, fully naked, and she had brutal head trauma. It looked like her head had been smashed with a rock, said Michael Gabrzeski. He's saying this to the Daily Mail. He said that it was his stepdaughter, Cecilia, that found her 37-year-old friend in a drain tunnel on the Ma and Pa Heritage Trail in Bel Air. There was a 15 to 20 foot blood trail, so it looked like she had been beaten and dragged into that position, he said. It looked like the killer was trying to erase her identity. The right side of her face was gone. Once again, remember, this is his description of what she saw. Cecilia was the first person to see the body. She was hyperventilating really, really bad, and then the police told her to sit down, he recalled. The Harford County Sheriff's Office, however, said Gabrzeski has no firsthand knowledge of the crime scene and didn't even come within eyesight of the crime scene when her body was found. So it's like they're pushing back a little bit on the information, but not really. There's not like a correction coming with the information. They're just kind of putting out there, hey, look, we know that this guy didn't see her. So maybe that's an indicator to us that we should be careful with this description, and that's why I'm trying to give it to you guys in this way. We're trying to be as careful as possible. Here we have a photo from the Daily Mail of the drainage pipes, and it's in one of these where her body was found. I have not found any notes about her clothing being found. If that is accurate and she is naked, where's her clothing? Where are her shoes? Where are all those items? No description of that. In terms of what else she might have had, I don't know. What did she have her cell phone on her? Was she listening to earbuds? There might be a lot of other personal effects that are part of this crime scene, and we do not have the details about any of that. And who knows? With every one of those items, there's a chance at some type of forensic evidence that could actually help this case. Continuing at the New York Post, on the afternoon of her death, we get a little bit of a timeline here. So earlier that day, she stopped at Glow. It's a bronzing studio, and she apparently stops there for a touch-up on her spray tan. So she stopped there at about 2 p.m. A source close to the salon told the Post that all employees there knew her, and the late mother had revealed to staff that she was on multiple dating sites prior to her death. Now, that fact is kind of being used in some titles here or there. I don't know if it's supposed to allude to some fact or I don't know. Sometimes I'm seeing it used and I'm like, are they trying to convince us that she was in some kind of risky behavior or something? Big deal. She was on multiple dating sites. Her current, and maybe that's it. Maybe they're thinking, oh, there's a bunch of people out there that are thinking her boyfriend has something to do with this. What if he found out that she was on multiple dating sites? I'm not seeing anything making that connection. And if their relationship is that new, it's definitely feasible that she hasn't deactivated all her profiles on other dating sites. That's not unheard of. So if you do look into this case for yourself, just know you're going to see that fact kind of thrown in the headlines. I'm really not finding anything to support that that's a big deal, really. However, that same week, she had gone public with her romance with Richard Tobin. See, there's the New York Post trying to make the connection there. She was on multiple dating sites, but she was involved with someone. And then they also have to note he was one of the last people to see her alive. After touching up her tan, Morin told salon workers that she was heading off to the gym. Tobin confirmed in a now deleted Facebook comment that they went to the gym together. And I've seen a post where someone has gone together and tried to stitch together a bunch of Tobin's Facebook comments and create a timeline of their own that, makes it look like he could be responsible for this. And they've even included information which has been publicized in some of the press. So I don't feel like, you know, we need to keep this under wraps necessarily. He had an AA meeting that night that he went to. And basically this person's timeline is leaving this little time gap right around the time where she supposedly goes to the trail. And then, oh, we don't know where he is. And all of a sudden he goes to the AA meeting. That information's out there. Is it really supported very well? Not for me, because it didn't include the sources for where all these little corners of this timeline have been stitched together to paint that picture. But we know how social media works, and unfortunately that's a picture that people are going to paint because it's going to bring them attention in some way. Anyway, we know they did go to the gym together. I bet it's probably something that they did every now and then. Both of them seem like people that are in the gym a lot. Tobin, who has since made his social media pages private, probably can't blame him based on what I'm seeing around this, also revealed in a now deleted comment that he dropped her off at her home shortly before 5 p.m. She then went on the hiking trail and was last spotted sometime between the hours of 6 and 7:30 p.m. Now that's an interesting fact, and that would mean, even based on what this own article is saying, he's the last person to see her live, but now they're giving us a fact that he drops her off at home at 5 and she's last spotted at 6 to 7:30. I have to assume that's by someone else. So is he the last person that saw her alive or not? I would think that this means that there was someone else that was exercising out there at the time. That's why they couldn't get the time frame solid, and they were like, oh yes, I did see someone matching her description that was, you know, walking down the trail. Something along those lines. Unfortunately, we don't have more detail than this. The Harford County Sheriff's Office has announced that they're looking for 5 witnesses who were on the trail. They're looking for witnesses that were described as either being 3 men, 2 women, and 2 dogs, or 2 men, 3 women, and 2 dogs. So it's clear that someone on the trail saw her and then also passed along the additional information to law enforcement. Oh, there was other groups of people out there. I saw this big group. It was either 3 men or 2 men, 3 women or 2 women, but they had 2 dogs with them. Tobin said on Facebook that Morin had been missing since 7 p.m. and that he and her children began looking for her around 9. He then made an official report to police around midnight. They even have the quote here on the now deleted Facebook comment. She's been missing since 7. She went on a hike, and me and the kids have been trying to find her since 9. Facebook users speculated Tobin, who has publicly admitted to being in recovery, may have been at an AA meeting at the Mann House at the time that Morin disappeared. Which, if that's true, I mean, if he was literally at an AA meeting, then it sounds like he's got an alibi that could probably be confirmed relatively easily. Over at Fox News, some more comments from Sheriff Gaylor. We're being very careful, very selective in what we share, only sharing things that we feel will help advance this investigation forward. And seriously, he is. And they will share something significant. We're going to get to it. We certainly recognize that many people in our community and outside of it are looking for answers, but I've been very careful to say they cannot come at the expense of conducting a quality investigation. He added that there is a whole lot out there that is just not accurate, and the officials are again asking people to come forward with information. I don't know exactly what he's talking about. The 2 big things that that I'm finding that are kind of hard to confirm are the description of her body when she was found and that timeline that I told you guys about Tobin. Is he trying to address that here? Perhaps. Is he trying to address other facts that might be inaccurate? We're not dealing with a lot of facts here. Like, a lot of this stuff is pretty firm. Her age, she's a mother of this many children. She's in a relationship with this guy. We really are not dealing with a lot of facts. So for him to be saying something like this, I'm pretty sure he's trying to address either one of those 2 things, maybe both of those things. Authorities had been looking to contact the group of men and women who might have, without even knowing it, valuable information that they didn't provide to investigators, but apparently they were contacted. So they did track down that additional group of witnesses. Do they have another piece of this puzzle? We don't know at this time. The sheriff's office will also be making robocalls, asking locals in Bel Air and beyond along the Ma and Pa Trail to check their home security camera footage. I haven't heard of a step like this being taken before. I think it's very, very smart, especially with how, you know, how many of us have Ring doorbells and security cameras and things of that nature Very, very smart because, like I said, this guy got in and got out somehow. Someone might have footage of that could be really, really helpful in a particular vehicle, even on foot. Who knows? We're broadening our whole spectrum for people who have camera footage that might capture any part of the trail or access to the trail to check that. There was the action of one or more persons who took her life in a criminal homicide, he continues. He says it's an egregious, horrific act in what is otherwise a very, very safe area. In an open letter published to Facebook, Morin's mother thanked the community for their help and said that her family needs the time and space to grieve as a family. And thankfully, the family takes a smart step here too. They actually get an attorney to be their spokesperson that interfaces with the public directly. And when the family does want to be at an event related to this, the attorney basically acts as kind of a protector, kind of a buffer for them. And I'm really happy to see that. Cops release video of Rachel Morin's suspected killer. I told you, these guys are they're on it in a way that I haven't seen before. This is very, very quick. I mean, this is happening within 2 weeks, basically. Authorities said a DNA sample analyzed by Maryland State Police matched DNA found at the scene of a home invasion and assault of a young girl in Los Angeles back in March. I'm like amazed. Like, for all the stories we hear about how slow it is to process DNA, or there's a backlog, somehow this sample gets not only analyzed quickly, uploaded into CODIS, and thankfully over on the, I don't know, I think it's LAPD on the other end, LAPD processed that case in a way, got that DNA sample analyzed, got that uploaded into CODIS, and boom, we have a match here. It's kind of amazing. I don't know if I've seen of a case like this recently where we've had a match be found this quickly from a different state. Like, this is kind of unheard of. Colonel William Davis of the Harford County Sheriff's Office told reporters about this. He said, quote, "Unfortunately, that suspect has not been identified, but he did leave behind his DNA. He also left behind something else, apparently some video footage. Based on the DNA evidence, we consider the individual in the video we obtained from the Los Angeles Police Department," so it is the LAPD, "to be the person that murdered Rachel Morin." They are being very strong and very clear about this. It makes me wonder about the DNA sample. They're not being clear about where the DNA sample came from necessarily, but they're certainly tying it directly to the act of murdering her. Police released video of the shirtless suspect, described as a Hispanic man about 5 feet 9 inches tall and 160 pounds, as he closes the front door and walks down the steps of the Los Angeles home he's suspected of robbing. Here is a shot of it. We'll watch the whole video in a little bit, but unfortunately, the video doesn't really have a good shot of his face. The murder appears to be a random act of violence, is what law enforcement's saying. Davis said police don't have any clue where the suspected killer could be. I mean, think about that. Literally almost on the other entire end of the country, 2,700 miles away, they pick up a thread of this guy being involved in another crime. All right, let's see here. So here's the video. As you can see, we just do not get a good shot. I'm looking at it frame for frame. There's one moment where you get his profile. Just a bit of it. It's not even a full profile shot. But there's something else about this video that's really standing out to me. He's not closing the door. Someone else is closing the door. He's speaking to them on his way out. And the way he's leaving, does this look like someone that just committed a crime? I don't know. When I first saw this video, the first thing that occurred to me is, well, the person at the door certainly knows what he looks like, and seems like they kind of know him. Like, this seems pretty casual for someone leaving. don't know. We'll hear a little bit more from Sheriff Gaylor about that. But we do hear from Tobin. I hope they found this scum of the earth. And then he also added to that post, justice for Rachel. R.I.P. Love you, Rach. So yeah, this is about the best shot of the profile that comes from that. Just not a whole lot that you can get from this. And there's really not a lot of detail about whatever this crime is. They're saying some type of home invasion and assault. Now, we do have a couple of other things happen in the community. Following the discovery of Morin's body, the sheriff's office stepped up patrols at the Ma Pa Trail, and Harford County Executive Bob Casilli is working on getting cameras installed on the trail. So they are going to increase security effectively for the trail. He said, quote, "It's highlighted the need for us to put cameras on the trail." Morin's family also planned a walk in her memory for Saturday, August 19th. They're asking for people to bring flowers and battery-operated candles to light the way. They're calling it the Trail of Flowers and Light Walk. And that was based on a post from her sister, Rebecca. So are we going to be able to figure out who this guy is? This is part of the reason why I wanted to get this video out as soon as possible. Knowing that there is a DNA match, this person, the only thing missing at this point is him being connected to his identity. And even though they don't have his identity in CODIS yet, we know that you can get a genetic genealogist on this, and they're going to be tracing it to his family relatively quickly. What is my big concern here? That this guy's going to bolt. And law enforcement is basically putting the word out. They want everybody to be aware of this case. They want to bring this guy in. And I think they're right. I think time is really of the essence here, because if he's watching the news, he knows his DNA's been matched. It's literally a matter of time, maybe not much time at all, before his name is attached to that. They're going to have pictures of him, and those pictures are going to be everywhere. So I'm pretty concerned that he's going to try to flee. And already look at what the type of case we're talking about. He's bouncing around this country as it is. How's he moving around? Why is he moving around? Is it part of a job? Is it part of something else? A lot of questions around this. And of course, the questions about what happened in this other crime. Newsweek kind of chased down a little bit of information on that. They contacted the Harford County Sheriff's Office for comment, and they were told that DNA evidence found at the scene of the crime was a match to DNA evidence recovered in an unsolved assault case of a woman in Los Angeles. Quote, "The unknown male is described as being approximately 5'9", 160 pounds, approximately 20 to 30 years of age, dark hair, muscular build, and is believed to be of Hispanic descent." This is not a current photo. They want you to keep in mind that this footage is from March, so his hairstyle may have changed. This individual is believed to have ties to the Los Angeles area and may have been involved in violent crimes in other states. Colonel Davis also stated that the police believe the suspect acted alone and emphasized that he doesn't represent the Hispanic community as a whole in the area. He added that authorities are partnering with the Hispanic community as part of the investigation in order to identify the suspect. Quote, "Our community is one that will work together, get the job done, and bring this suspect to justice. In the meantime, in the light of this new evidence, I urge our citizens to use caution while walking on our trails and throughout our community. Be alert, walk with a friend, don't allow yourself to be distracted by your cell phone or your headphones." Just a bunch of good advice there. And, you know, like, I love listening to music when I go for a run. It's just a matter of I won't have both headphones in. I'll keep one of them out. I won't have the volume too high so I can't hear from that side. You just want to be sure that you can be aware of what's going on around you at all times. So just, I don't know, trying to learn some lessons and trying to just learn something in just a completely senseless act like this. I don't understand why people do this. The LA Times, do they have any more information about this crime out there that we can learn? LAPD Captain Kelly Muniz said that the video comes from a March 26th hot prowler burglary in South LA, which means that he burglarized an occupied home. I'm curious about the burglary too, because he looks like he's carrying the shirt that he's not wearing and little else, unless he's carrying something in that shirt. Did he go in there and steal cash only or jewelry? I don't know. Muniz said that a person was assaulted in that incident, but it was not a sexual assault. Now, I just want to put that out there because I'm seeing some publications run with, oh, this was a sexual assault that happened out there. And to be fair, some of the things that we're hearing from Sheriff Gaylor might kind of make you think that, oh, wasn't that a sexual assault out in LA? According to the information we're getting here from the LA Times, no. Now, Harford County Sheriff's officials said that the assault victim was a minor. So they're kind of stitching in some of the information from this end of it too. LAPD collected DNA during the burglary investigation. The video from an exterior camera shows the suspect closing the home's front door and walking down the steps away from the house. Davis said investigators released the home security footage, hoping someone in LA or Maryland would recognize the suspect. And that's still the hope that we're going for. As of today, still has not been identified. Joe Murtha is the lawyer that's representing the family, and he's making comments here in the U.S. Sun. He told the U.S. Sun that the family's hopeful about this new information. The family's encouraged that there's evidence that may lead to the prosecution of the person who took Rachel's life. I feel pretty confident it's going to. It's just a matter of, is it going to be a tip that gets called in that leads to his identity, or are we going to have to wait for the genetic genealogy component? They believe that the ability to provide this information to a national audience can help reach someone who knows the person who committed the crime. As they grieve the loss of Rachel, they have the hope that law enforcement will catch the perpetrator and bring justice for Rachel. It also notes here that this family was already going through a terrible tragedy. Her sister, Rebecca, had just lost their baby, a girl, to SIDS, to sudden infant death syndrome. So yeah, this family's been hit with back-to-back losses. It also talks about a GoFundMe that they've started here. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. So the video being released, a lot of publications start asking same types of questions as we have. Why is this guy in that area now? Is there some kind of connectivity that can be figured out with that? Is he a truck driver? Is it occupational? There's other questions. While the Ma and Pa Trail is well known to locals, it remains a hidden gem to most outsiders. And if we just kind of take a look at the map again, I mean, how would you even know about this place? It's in the middle of neighborhoods, a lot of homes, a little bit of commerce around here. It's really a good question. Like how would someone from LA come to know about this trail? A local of Bel Air named Mary Bloomberg says you would have to have some type of information. And sadly, was she targeted? Because I talked to another runner who saw her at the same time many, many nights. So that's what's concerning too. We really don't know. Yeah, that there is just a little bit of a question for me in terms of, could she have been targeted? What pushes that question to the side for me is if the information we have about the attack is accurate. Was she attacked with a rock? Because that really seems like crime of opportunity territory. You know, if someone was going to pay to have her killed for some reason, are you going to do it with a rock, you know, following her through a trail? The makeup of it doesn't sound quite right to me. And in terms of motive for harming someone like this, would there be a motive for someone to pay someone? I've only seen one small, tiny hint of that come up. Here at the Baltimore Banner, they have a quote from Colonel William Davis. He said, "We believe this was a person that Rachel didn't know, potentially a random act of violence." So we do have the word potentially in there. We know nothing more about him other than he was in LA in March, and we believe him to be the murderer. Now here they do note that court records show that Morin had a history of litigation with her romantic partners. That's the only slight touch that I have, are those two things that we get the term potentially a random act of violence. But like I described to you guys, if the information we have is accurate about how she was attacked, it seems like that would fit more of the random act of violence component. And Sheriff Gaylor has also been pretty strong about that as well, that it seems to be the way he's leaning. But there is this extra note that, you know, maybe she had a lot of lawsuits with people. Would that be reason? I would hope not, but you never know. Like I mentioned earlier, the makeup for a random act of violence was with a female in particular, when they're out working out in an area like this. We've seen this with cases before. Fox News actually pulled a report together on it, kind of tying these together and noting some of those other instances. A majority of female runners fear being attacked because instances of these random crimes are not entirely uncommon. These cases are not out of the ordinary. And while you're always looking at individuals who are closest to the victim, you also have to keep your eyes open, said former Washington, D.C. homicide detective and Fox News contributor Ted Williams. This is one reason why women are told if you're going to be jogging alone early in the morning or late at night to change their jogging pattern, because there are always, unfortunately, predators out there. And just to kind of go through the list real quick, to remind everyone, Chandra Levy, Molly Tibbetts, Karina Vetrano, which we covered here on the channel, Eliza Fletcher, Sydney Sutherland. Now, of these cases, there is a little bit of a silver lining with these cases, and that's that even though these people are completely disconnected from the victim socially, they were found. They were all found. And in these cases, in several of them, we didn't have to wait a decade or 2 decades for that to happen. So I'm hoping that we're going to see that same kind of thing happen with this case, where it moves very, very quickly. And this family and all of their supporters that you can see here doing the Remembering Rachel Morin walk will get the justice that all of them are waiting for. So the weekend before last, Bel Air community gathered to remember Rachel Morin. A walk of remembrance garnered hundreds of people at the Ma and Pa Trail. Family members of the victim hosted the walk, which started at 11:30 a.m. as a way for the community to pray and grieve together. And once again, we had attorney Joe Murtha show up and speak for the family. The walk is really to remember not the end of her, but her life, and the fact that this place was an area where she gained strength, joy, solitude, and oftentimes serenity. The one thing that they asked me to really focus on is saying thank you, Murtha said. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing your support. And most importantly, as this investigation goes forward and it spreads out throughout the entire United States, we're hoping that some person who has the humanity will assist and bring an end to this. And not only the hint there, but directly from Sheriff Gaylor, they're putting the word out very strongly that we don't know where this guy is at this point. We have appearances on complete opposite ends of the country, and he could be anywhere in between. And that's why it's so important to raise exposure to this case on a national level. Also, Sheriff Gaylor points out that the suspect could become more brazen the longer that he's on the loose. And he thinks it's very likely that someone knows him, and he's asking that person to come forward. Quote, "I just don't believe you do 2 things that are so serious in nature, and that's your starting point. Most likely, you've been involved in other crimes." He made a couple of really good points that I want to share with you guys here on the Fox True Crime Podcast. Just a few snippets from it. The first is about that footage and why it looks so strange. Let's see if he can give us any better insight into that.
A lot of people who have seen the video, it generates as many questions as I guess it answers, in that it doesn't appear like he's leaving under any exigent circumstances. He's in no hurry as he leaves. We recognize that. We know that it's not the norm for what people would think. So we put investigators on the ground to kind of get those answers and others. And we actually have investigators in Chicago today following up on other leads. So we will go anywhere in the country. We will, look under any rock to find this individual. We need to remove him from the ability to do this again.
So even the sheriff acknowledging that, hey, look, that footage looks strange. What I'm wondering is, the assault was said to be made against a minor. And we know that with cases of that nature, law enforcement can be very, very tight-lipped about the details of those cases. I'm starting to wonder if potentially it is a statutory rape that happened in that case. And it could be that the minor maybe knows the person under a different name, like an alias or something like that, and they're not able to track them down. That's kind of the only situation that is standing out to me as a strong possibility in this case, especially taking his comments into account there. He's like, hey, look, we know this looks weird, and we have detectives kind of asking around about that. It's making me wonder if that's like maybe it was a situation where, you know, a young girl's being groomed online, or one of those types of scenarios. But what about the possibility of this? There was a run of articles over the past week about this potentially being a serial killer. What does he think about that? Let's hear a little bit more.
Everybody out there knows him, but there are some commonalities in how he carried out the assault there and how he carried out the homicide here, to where I think, you know, we've seen before. The question is he going to, is he or is he going to become a serial killer? We only know him to be responsible for the one, but I wake up every morning wondering if somewhere out there, some other police department across the country is investigating a homicide and their DNA evidence just has not hit yet. I pray that's not the case. And I also pray that I suspect if he stays out there long enough, he's going to move. Either he's going to commit another one here in our community, or he's going to move to wherever he's laying his head. But he will, you know, I strongly suspect he will do this again if he's not captured.
And the big call from the sheriff, what exactly is he looking for? What does he want you to do?
No matter where you are, and you may not think that this crime in what is a relatively very safe place here in our county, and this trail, a very safe place, doesn't affect you. Until we know where this guy's laying his head and we can put him behind bars, it affects everybody.
I don't think any of us can argue with that. There is a reward of up to $10,000 being offered for information that leads to this arrest. And since Morin's death was confirmed, a GoFundMe has been started in her honor. It's raised over $50,000. And Rebecca Morin, who is Morin's sister, actually set that account up. She said, quote, "I've made a GoFundMe to help my mother, Patty Morin, with funeral costs. There was no life insurance in place. This was not an accidental death, and she did not go willingly. And she deserves a funeral worthy of her beauty. If there are any remaining funds, they will go towards things her 5 children may need. Please share, donate, comment, and keep this going." So, of course, we do have the link down below. And as soon as I'm done filming here today, I'll be making a donation on behalf of myself and my amazing supporters. Thank you guys so much to this fund as well. The funeral did happen last weekend, and we've got some words here about it. Rachel Morin spent her childhood making mud pies and stirring forest stew. As teens, she and her siblings would laugh for hours around the dinner table, and when she gave birth to her own 5 children, she welcomed them into this warm and deeply religious Harford County family. Mourners on Sunday at Greater Grace Church, Baltimore, focused on the joy and enthusiasm with which Morin filled her 37 years, as well as the anguish of losing her to a sudden and violent death. Her mother, Patty Morin, spoke of being in Kentucky for another family tragedy. A grandchild there had died of SIDS on Saturday, August 5th, when she learned that Rachel had gone missing. That must have been terrible for that mother. But Patty Morin has found comfort in a hymn about the presence of God. Quote, "In the darkness, God will keep me. He will stay and never sleep." Patty also spoke of the hundreds of people that came out for the memorial walk, including many who said they didn't know Rachel well, but that she always greeted them with a warm smile. Quote, "We think those are little ordinary things, but they actually mean something to people," Patty said. And she also said, "The thing that always stood out for me was how much she loved her kids and would do anything for them." So we need justice for Rachel, guys, and it's going to take all hands on deck. Like I said at the start of this video, please share this video with everyone you can. Let's raise exposure to this case. Let's try to figure out who the person in this footage is. And if you want to help in other ways, these 5 children aren't going to have their mother around. Please consider making a donation to the GoFundMe. In the links down below, I will also have the Harford County Sheriff's Office, as well as contact information for them. If you happen to have any information on this case, please put it in play. We need justice to arrive here, and justice is actually going to solve 2 cases in this instance, and maybe more. There might be other things that just haven't been connected to this perpetrator yet. So I really appreciate your guys' help in terms of doing that. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. We will be back next week with a new show, Best of Seriously Mysterious. You won't want to miss that. I'll see you with that on Friday. Of course, we'll be back on Wednesday with another Searchlight. See you again here soon on the LordanArts channel.